So last Wednesday, we learned the modern art, right? Before the avant-garde, the modern art movements before the avant-garde. So today we're going to see we're going to continue to see the rest of the art movements after avant-garde. So again, the modern art is divided as two: before the avant-garde and after the avant-garde. So in the last meeting, we learned these three art movements before the avant-garde: realism, impressionism, post-impressionism. So even though the modern era started, the beginning of the modern art movements are still based on the observational, because the photographs development was just a baby step. However, after the avant-garde, the photographs are very popular from the professional to the amateur. So many of artists sell to new style of art, such as abstract or non-representational art styles. So these are all the art movements after avant-garde. So we are going to see these the top 5 art movements today: Fauvism, Expressionism, Cubism, Futurism, and Dada. And in the next meeting, we're going to see the rest of the art movement after avant-garde, surrealism, and idealism. So let's see the Fauvism first. In 1 second, something is wrong in my slide. Oh, okay. Okay, that was correct. Okay, so let's just remind what the avant-garde was. So the avant-garde was originally a military term referring to the detachment of soldiers that went first into battle. Avant-garde, which is a French term, means newest, latest, and most advanced art. By the 1880s, younger artists began to refer to themselves as the avant-garde. They were the boldest artists, going first into uncharted territory and waiting for others to catch up. Newest and change became artistic ideals. So each generation, even each group, believed it was their duty to go further than the one before. So the first art movement is Fauvism. In 1904, the artist of the Salon d'Aram organized a large exhibition of Cézanne, who is the father of the modern art. And in 1906, they mounted a major retrospective of Gauguin. But the most notorious exhibit of Salon d'Aram was the one they organized for themselves in 1905. So it was them that a critic dubbed them Fauves and wild beasts. So the artist who emerged as the leader of this wild new trend in painting was Henri Matisse. So Henri Matisse was a French artist. He was a draftsman, printmaker, and sculptor, but he's known primarily as a painter. Matisse is commonly regarded, along with Pablo Picasso, as one of the artists who best helped to define the revolutionary developments in the visual art throughout the opening decades of the 20th century. responsible for significant developments in painting and sculpture. So during his 5 years, Henri Matisse often painted landscapes in the south of France during the summer and worked up ideas developed there into large compositions upon his return to Paris. So this painting's title is The Joy of Life. How do you think about this painting? How does it look like? Can you feel the wild beast? Nothing about it?
Looks like all women.
Yeah, all women. And there are a few men here.
There's a man, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a man in the corner there.
Yes.
How about the colors?
The colors are very bright, like primary colors, mainly like red hues.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So
Looks like they're having a good time.
huh?
Seems like they're having
a good time.
Yes, they're having a good time. Yes. It looks like utopia. Yeah.
Violent, nothing like this.
Exactly. Yeah, very good. So The Joy of Life, which is the second of his important imaginary compositions. And it is typical of these. So he used a landscape he had painted in career to provide setting for the idol, but it is also influenced by ideas drawn from Watteau, Pushkin, Japanese woodcut, Persian miniatures, and 19th century's Orientalist images of harems. The scene is made up of independent motifs arranged to form a complete composition. So the massive painting and its shocking colors received mixing reviews at the Salon des Independents. Critics noted its new style, like broad fields of color and linear figures. And this is Henri Matisse' another painting, The Dance. The final version of The Dance has a very different emotional character. So it has been described as forbidding, menacing, tribal, ritualistic, even demonic, I'm sorry. So drum beats almost seem to be heard as the simple pleasure of the original. So it is overwhelmed. And the next art movement we are going to see is Expressionism. Expressionism's fundamental purpose of art was to express their intense feeling toward the world. Expressionism describes any style where the artist's subjective feelings take precedence over objective observation. So I will show you two artists of Impressionism. The first artist is Edward Munch. Edward Munch is best known as being Norwegian-born expressionist painter and printmaker. In the late 20th century, he played a great role in German expressionism and the art form that later followed, namely because of the strong mental anguish that was displayed in many of the pieces that he created. So Munch recalled the mental issues through this work of art. What kind of feeling do you feel through this painting, everyone?
Like terror or
Yeah.
Some sort of anguish.
Yes. Yes.
I feel like depression, somebody very depressed, don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Everything is correct. Yes. Something kind of, struggling, happens in this painting, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So Munch recalled that he had been out for a walk at sunset when suddenly the setting sunlight turned the cloud a blood red, and he sensed an infinite scream passing through nature. So scholars have located the spot to a field overlooking Oslo, and have suggested other explanations for the unnaturally orange sky, ranging from the effects of a volcanic eruption to a psychological reaction by Munch to his sister's commitment at a nearby asylum, lunatic asylum. And the next expressionist artist is Vasily Kandinsky. He used to be a musician, so his work of art looks like very rhythmical and musical. Kandinsky was one of the pioneer of abstract modern art and explored an evocative interrelation between color and form to create an aesthetic experience that engaged the sight, sound, and emotions of the public. So this is his work. So he believed that total abstraction offered the possibility for profound, transcendental expression, and that copying from nature only interfered with this process. And this is another his painting with geometric shapes and lines. So it looks very rhythmical. And let's move on to the next art movement after avant-garde, Cubism. Cubism is a style of painting and sculpture developed in the early 20th century, characterized chiefly by an emphasis on formal structure, the reduction of natural forms to their geometrical equivalents, and the organization of the planes of the represented object independently of representational requirements. So the most famous artist of Cubism is Pablo Picasso. So this is Pablo Picasso. Pablo Picasso is probably the most important figure of 20th century in terms of art and the art movements that occurs over this period. And before the age of 50, the Spanish-born artist had become the most well-known name in modern art, with the most distinct style and eye for artistic creation. This is Pablo Picasso's very aggressive style of Cubism painting. Everyone look at this painting closer. Can you guess what it is in this painting? There is something in this painting. Can you guess what it is?
There's supposed to be a guitar in this picture somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
I watched the video about this.
Oh, I see.
I've been looking for the guitar. I don't really see the guitar.
Yeah. So everyone, look at this. So there is a head, and this is a shoulder, and this is a body, and someone is holding a musical instrument guitar here. Can you believe it?
No, I still don't see it.
Yeah. So the Pablo Picasso painted a guitarist in this painting. So, so the artist simplified all the body parts and reorganized them in this painting. So, I guess most of you didn't watch the video yet. So I'm gonna just share this amazing paintings video. Okay. Give me 1 second. It takes a little bit longer. All right. There we go.
We're in the Pompidou Center in Paris looking at a painting by Pablo Picasso called The Guitarist from 1910.
This is what is often referred to as analytic cubism.
Analytic in the idea of taking something apart, analyzing the parts of something. And you can see that does look like a jigsaw puzzle where the forms have been disassembled.
It's an abstraction.
The further we stand back from the painting, the more I can see the forms of a man. A head, shoulders, elbows, the fingerboard of the guitar.
Yes, like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
now you get it. Yep.
Yeah. I got it. I watched this video like 3 times last night, and I'm like, I don't see this guitar at all.
This is truly amazing painting. Yes.
Of the outside of the guitar.
But I don't think that Picasso meant this to be a puzzle that we're supposed to put back together. Although Picasso is best known for abstracted paintings such as this, it's important to remember that Picasso was something of a child prodigy. He could draw in the academic style beautifully. For the previous 400 or 500 years, Western art had been preoccupied with naturalism, with representing the natural world as carefully and exactly as possible.
Representing the world as it appears to our eyes.
And artists developed a toolkit to do this. This included linear perspective.
Using light and shadow to create the illusion of three-dimensional form.
The problem that Picasso faced is that the modern world was one that felt ruptured. Old systems no longer felt valid.
The early 20th century is a time of tremendous upheaval. There is a sense that vision itself is unreliable.
Picasso was grappling specifically with the issue that painting was a kind of illusion, a representation of three-dimensional form and space on a two-dimensional surface.
A system of representation.
So could Picasso invent a new language for representation, but one that was not hiding the two-dimensionality of the canvas, but rather putting that in the forefront? So let's look closely at this painting and see if we can understand how Picasso has done this here. Picasso has simplified the human form.
We see diagonals, horizontals, vertical lines in black. We see circles that intersect.
But it's so abstracted that if we oriented it as if it were a landscape, we might expect to see the rooftops of a village instead of a man holding a guitar.
The fundamentals of perspective that governed Western painting for so long supposed a single viewer fixed in front of a work of art and showed us that view.
And Cézanne in the late 19th century had developed those ideas. Cézanne said, instead of standing in one place, looking from one point in space and time, I actually move around the thing that I'm painting.
Even if you don't move around it, what if you slightly turn your head to the right or to the left? The reality is that one's view is constantly changing and shifting.
And Picasso takes that idea and runs with it. What would happen if you represented this man holding a guitar over time from multiple perspectives?
That's a different kind of truth than the truth that Western painting had given us for 500 years.
So this is not less true, it's just differently true.
Picasso has also emptied the painting of much of its color.
And much of its content. We don't see hands, we don't see a face, we don't see emotion. The things that generally draw us into a painting of a person, what Picasso is interested in instead is the structural logic of the language that he's inventing. And he's inventing it not by himself, but with his compatriot George Braque.
And we still do have some illusion of space. There is a shallow relief here. We have light and shade. We have the movement between those pale tones and darker shadows. So there is a suggestion of a form there. This is not entirely flat, but it certainly is reminding us of the flatness of the canvas that this is painted on.
And as you said, he's reducing color so that we focus on line, on form, on mass, on structure. The colors are reduced to some browns and whites and blacks and perhaps some pale greens.
So we have light and shade that suggests three-dimensional form, and we have overlapping of shapes that also suggests depth.
But not deep space. This is a shallow space, maybe a few inches, just enough for the fractured forms that are represented. It's as if Picasso has taken a series of views of the human body and reconstructed them on the two-dimensional plane.
I find a tension between the title, the guitarist, and the painting itself.
Without the title as a prompt, you'd be hard-pressed to locate the man or the guitar. This is a painting that is about the way that painting itself works. Picasso here is on the edge of abstraction, but this is not pure abstraction. It is not entirely divorced from the world that we see. Throughout his entire career, Picasso remained interested in the tension between what we see and the way in which we depict it.
All right. So now, let me show you another Pablo Picasso's famous painting, this. So it's a large oil painting created in 1907 by Pablo Picasso. This work is part of the permanent collection of the Museum of Modern Art, the MoMA in the New York City. It portrays 5 nude female prostitutes in a brothel on Avignon. Each figure is depicted in a disconcerting, confrontational manner, and the nose is conventionally feminine. So the women appear slightly menacing and are rendered with angular and disjointed body shapes. The 3 figures on the left exhibit facial features in the Iberian style of Picasso's native Spain. And while these 2 on the right are shown with African mask-like features. So the racial primordialism evoked in these masks, according to Pablo Picasso, moved him to liberate an utterly original artistic style of compelling, even savage force. And this painting is looking, familiar with us, right?
Oh, Guernica.
Yeah, Guernica. So on 26 April 1937, the Air Force of Nazi Germany bombed the basket town of Guernica. The attack was carried out in support of General Franco's naturalist forces. It was one of the worst atrocities of the Spanish Civil War. Picasso responded to the massacre by painting the large anti-war mural Guernica. He also made a number of additional paintings of a figure from the mural, a woman holding her dead child. This weeping woman is the last of the series, and the figure is based on the artist and photographer Dora Maar, who documented the making of Guernica. In 1914, the conflict broke out in the Balkan Peninsula, and soon, as the result of treaties and alliances, every major power in Europe was drawn into war. Soldiers with their heads full of gallant ideas about battle rushed headlong into the most horrible death imaginable. So in 1916, a group of artists waiting out the war in Jurek in neutral Switzerland banded together as a protest art movement called Dada. Dada was anti-art, anti-middle-class society, anti-politicians, anti-good manners, and anti-business as usual, and anti all that had brought about the war. In that sense, Dada was a big no. But Dada was also big yes. Yes to creativity, to life, to silliness, to spontaneity. So Marcel Duchamp, who is a Dada artist, and he was a French-American painter, sculptor, chess player, and writer. So his work is associated with Cubism, Dada, and conceptual art. So this work is widely regarded as a modernist classic and has become one of the most famous of its time. Before its first presentation at the 1912 Salon de Independence is in Paris, it was rejected by the Cubists as being too futurist. And we know this work type, right? Ready-made. The ready-mades of Marcel Duchamp are originally manufactured objects that the artist selected and modified as an antidote to what he called rational art. So by simply choosing the objects and repositioning or joining, titling and signing it, the found object became art. So the Marcel Duchamp, the Dadaist artist, created the ready-made style of art. All right, so the next art movement we are going to see is surrealism and the idealism, but we're going to see them in the next meeting. And let me share today's discussion topic. So this is today's discussion topic. So everyone please go to discussion 13.1. The modern art is divided as two threads by avant-garde, right? So what's the differences and why are they different? Please answer this topic. So let me just explain this a little bit more.